Good afternoon, everyone. My name is David Garofalo, and I'm the Director of Marketing and Communications here at IANA. And I'd like to welcome you to today's Intermodal Connects webinar presented by Envase. And this session is called Escape Your Paperwork Chokehold. With that, I'd like to introduce our panelists for today. Jim Hickman, President of Envase Technologies, and Sean Leone, President of Sunburst Truck Lines. Gentlemen, I'm going to turn the session over to you.
Thanks, David. Appreciate that. Welcome everyone that's on the webinar. Glad to have you on here. Welcome to Escape Your Paperwork Chokehold. And so today, part of the takeaways that we would like to get out of this is where are the inefficiencies in your company, or when we're talking to Sean, maybe what were the inefficiencies in Sean's company? How did he eliminate those inefficiencies, and what does digitizing your technology footprint look today within the company? So I'd like to introduce Sean Leone. Sean Leone is President, CEO of Sunburst Truck Lines with locations in Houston, 2 in the Dallas location, and 1 in the Savannah, Georgia location. But before I turn it over to Sean, a little bit about myself. I have nearly 32 years of experience in TMS, or transportation management solutions, with software, designing processes, software implementation. Probably have walked into about 1,000 intermodal drayage trucking companies, understanding their processes, and then turning on software to make those processes more efficient. So Sean, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yes, my name is Sean Leone. I'm the President, CEO of Sunburst Truck Lines. We're a second-generation family-owned company. My dad started the company in '88. I started with him full-time in '89, and so we've been there for going on 34 years this year. And so recently we've been enjoying some expansion into other markets, and it's been going pretty well.
Great, great. So Sean, how did you connect with formerly CompCare Services, which is now part of the Envase network of solutions? How did you connect with CompCare, and what were you using prior to implementing the Envase solutions?
Sure, we were using just pretty much a homemade self-designed database to track everything, and it worked okay, but it had no visibility into one of the big things was the per diem, tracking how long containers had been out, how long when we needed to turn them back in. And that was one of the big things that back in, I believe, 2008 that drove us to looking for a TMS, was we were spending so much money on per diem because we could not properly track it. And that led us to searching for something. And then we're connected with you at CompCare. And after testing 3 or 4 different other TMS providers, CompCare just made sense to me. And it was the clear route that we needed to go. And we haven't regretted it since.
Well, great to hear. And so what were some of those processes prior to implementing the TMS? Was it a lot of still pushing paperwork? Was it the old T-card style? If you can kind of just shed a little light of how you were dispatching prior to the solutions.
Yes, it was very much paperwork. Everything was printed out. We printed out T-cards to hand out to drivers if they're in the office. Our communications were all through the Nextel, just 2-way communication. So it was very difficult to hear or be able to tell someone a booking number over a radio and not have to repeat it 3 or 4 times because the letters all sounded the same. The communication just was not great. So there's been so many advancements that we've done from day one of using CompCare that's just improved that whole process. So just for the drivers to be able to get their information on the tablet, we don't have to tell it to them. It just pops up and they can read their own booking number, the reference number, where they're going. They get all the information that we used to have to tell them over the radio. And then that led into the in-app text messaging with the drivers, which is huge. They can text to whichever department they need to get a hold of. and there's someone always on our side, just, on their computer screen, and they can text back, and it cut down phone calls tremendously and improved efficiencies in the office. So we could handle a lot more vehicles without adding a lot more staff.
So talking about staff in your locations, shed a little light on your locations, how many staff members and how many drivers at each location?
So right now in Houston, we're at about 85 drivers. That's also the corporate headquarters. So in the dispatch office, there's 5, and then we have another 12 throughout the front office and billing and safety. In Dallas, we're running about 30 trucks, and we have a team of 4 there. Fort Worth, we have about 11 trucks right now. We just started that terminal last year, and I have 1 person staff there, but they kind of work together hand in hand with the whole DFW area together. And then Savannah, we're just now opening up this month. I have 2 people staffed out there. We're signing on our first 3 trucks as we speak. So I'm excited to get started in that area.
Nice. I know we did some integration in with the Port of Houston with their terminal operating systems. Can you explain in terms of how those efficiencies were built and layered in with the port?
Yeah, that API integration with the port was a huge transformation for, I think, the software and how it helped us. One of the big things is getting all the information from the port automatically. Every 15 minutes, we make an API call to the port, and we get, for export bookings, we get the vessel that the port shows us booked on. We get the first receiving date, the cutoff date. It can verify if we have the wrong port in our system, Bayport versus Barber's Cut. If we have it in our system wrong, we can get an auto email because it's checked it through that API. And so that's eliminated a ton of dry runs, because especially with today's day, when they're pushing back first receiving so much, we're getting that automatically input into our system, where we used to have to manually go to the website, search for it, then find every order on that particular vessel and manually change it. Now the API just does it all for us every 15 minutes. So that's drastically reduced the number of dry runs that we have sending loads into the port, which also lessens the line of drivers that don't need to be there. So it lessens up the people there. When you talk about sustainability, that's that many less miles driven on the road and diesel wasted for no reason. So it's really helped all around with that part of the API. The next part, I don't know if you want to go into the pin release system as well. So that's the other part of the API that's been a huge gain for us and for Envase or CompCare, is our drivers now can create their own pre-release numbers. So they skip stage 1 and go straight into stage 2. And it also pre-verifies that also everything is good on the booking. So within the tablet system, the drivers can go in there. We dispatch them to terminate a load, and they can pick if they're going to, if they are going to the port, they just pick that they're going to terminate. They choose whether they're going to keep or drop the chassis. It automatically comes into our system, which APIs with the port, brings the pre-release back into their tablet. So they can just look right there, and instead of going to the phone at the terminal and tell them over the phone all the information, the pre-release is done fairly instantly, and the drivers go to one of the express lane entrances. So you bypass a lot of the other trucks and put in a 5-digit number, and it eliminates so many mistakes at the gate.
Nice. And the good news is, Sean, when you get into Savannah, there's a PIN process there that we have APIs that will also automate that. So you don't need to have staff sitting there booking all the pre-gate PIN process. So good. Yep. Let's talk about your drivers. How hard was it or easy was it to get them on board with the whole process with the tablets? And I understand you also you're using Samsara for the logs and forward facing cameras as well. So tell us a little bit about that experience.
Yeah, so we first started with the tablets. I think we started back in 2015, January 15th, when we really started bringing in the tablets. Some of the older drivers, we did get a little pushback from. Anyone that could use a smartphone was perfectly fine with the system. It's easy, it makes sense. So most of the drivers just loved having that data right in front of them. They didn't have to call, they didn't have to double check. It saves so very many calls back into the dispatch office. So it really, other than the training and kind of getting them used to it, they adopted it really quickly. minus a few of the old timers who still have a flip phone and just didn't want to use technology. But they all have come along as well now, and it's simple, and it's just they only have a few options they have to push at each transaction, and so that works very well for them.
What would you say to users out there that say, well, it's too expensive, I don't want to go through the cost of getting the device, paying for the plan, etc., versus how has it made you efficient enough where if you bore those costs, what kind of cost savings have you realized?
Well, the cost saving is huge. And as we were growing, after we started using the software, it was very easy to expand without needing a large additional staff. It just took so much of the paperwork process out of the office. We went completely paperless. So I would say, but just between that, another huge savings again is the lack of bad dispatching. Having all that information there that we get it to the driver accurately. They know where they're going. They're not going to a wrong location because they can pull up Google Maps right off the tablet and get directions right to what our system shows they need to go to. So it saved money there. Again, saved money on the dry runs for the drivers. And if it was our fault, we'd have to pay out that dry run. Well, now we're just eliminating them. And so it's there's been, I would say you cannot afford not to do it. It depends on what you're using today. It's been it revolutionized the way we do trucking.
Yeah, thanks for that, Sean. Also, I think you've seen where we like to partner with other vendors such as Samsara. We've done the integration with their APIs for driver alerts in terms of hours of service, etc. And our latest, which you haven't seen yet, Sean, and we can get that turned on, which is integrating in. So when a driver calls in, you could virtually click on that driver, and then we have a link that ties right into the forward-facing camera. So that if the driver, let's say hypothetically, is telling you there's a port congestion, he's in a long line, and you just want to double check by checking his camera, you'd be able to do so on that. So how have your customers benefited from basically the TMS, the integration, the mileage integrations? What are some of the items that your customers are thrilled about?
As you started off, we do appreciate that you do integrate API or EDI with pretty much anyone. Every time I've come to you with someone I think would be great to integrate with, it's always yes. We can integrate with anybody who can integrate with. Will integrate back with us. So that's been very nice. Any customer that will do EDI or API, we do connect with them that way, which saves tons of time on entry. The customers like those connections because when we update a status in our system, it can automatically update the customer in their system as well. So they're getting real-time data as far as when we dispatch a driver, when the container's picked up, when it's delivered, when it's returned. They can get that data automatically. And if they're customers that don't integrate, if they don't have the capability, then through the auto reporting has been amazing as well. Because I tell my customers, if the information's in our system and you can dream it, we can get your report, whatever you want to see with that information. One specific example is I have a customer who he was responsible for tracking all of their chassis days on a spreadsheet. And I sat there and talked to him over lunch. I said, well, we have all the information of when we picked it up, when we turned it in, when it needs to be turned in. So we created an automated report for him, added in the calculations of the days and the information that he needed to see. And he said he used to spend an hour to 2 a day managing chassis, and now it just comes to a report directly to him from us. And it comes in an Excel format, and he can manipulate that and add it into what he needs to. So customers definitely like having the information.
Nice. And wasn't there a recent ETA report that was built where I think we plugged into yet another API with Google?
Yes. So this is the newest one that I'm very excited about because you're integrating with Samsara. So, and we have a customer who wants to know the ETAs of their trucks 3 times a day, every day. So we were having to, before, go to Samsara, look at the ETA, kind of manually can figure out when that truck is going to arrive there to put it on an email and let the customer know. Well, now every day at the designated times that the customer wants them, everything that's in an active dispatch status with an appointment of that day goes and pulls the driver information out of Envase, pulls the driver's location out of Samsara, runs it through a Google API to get the ETA to the location or the address that he's dispatched to, brings all that information back into Envase, puts it on a Crystal report that's an automatic email. So we don't touch a button anymore. Every day at their pre-described times, they get an email that tells them which trucks are dispatched, where they are, and what time they'll be there. And it's, again, eliminated multiple emails and often multiple phone calls a day to give them this information.
Nice. Historically, pre-COVID, we would have an annual management conference, and we just recently wrapped up one under Envase with all of our companies there at Terranea in Palos Verde. You've attended multiple of our conferences in the past. Tell us, what are some of the takeaways that you get out of those conferences?
Absolutely. I'll say one of the first things that I love about these conferences is all the customers that come there. A lot of them were literally direct competitors, but when we're there, it's not how anyone acts. Everyone gets together, we talk about situations that we have, and we work on best practices. So with a collective from multiple different voices, we come together and find common problems that we all have. So then we find a common solution. And then that's when it comes to you guys, and y'all adapt and make the change and go to programming and fix it. So definitely the collaboration with other people in the industry, even if they're not direct competitors, I would say that is huge. And then even just the ideas that come out of it after the fact, and it gets to you thinking about what could this be next. And so that's what brings the ideas together, and we bring it to y'all, and that's where ideas become reality, and it's just continuously improving.
Well, as you say, what could be next? What would be that ultimate end goal for you and your operations? If we could supply the technology, if technology is available, what would you foresee coming?
Well, there's some I think that you're already working on, and I think you've already perfected for some. Just the next dispatch, the driver almost auto dispatching, kind of taking the human element out of it, giving our dispatchers an idea of what would be the next best options for drivers versus them having to figure it all on their own. I think that would be huge. I think drivers would trust that a little bit better as well. They don't feel like that someone's trying to pick or choose their dispatches. So that, and then again, the integration with everything, the willingness and the ability to integrate with Samsara, with all these, with the whole IoT things going on right now. It's just, I think that's going to be key as more and more people come together. There's going to be more and more things to integrate in with, and just strengthening all those things to just bring everything into one spot. Like you mentioned, connecting with Samsara within our dispatch board, we can click on a driver and see what his hours of service are left. So before we dispatch him on that next move, my dispatcher doesn't have to go to the Samsara website, search for that driver, look at what his drive time's left or total time. We click on it and right there on our board in Envase, and it pulls it right up, and we know whether that driver can make the next move.
Yeah, no, thanks for mentioning next dispatch. And for those that aren't aware, basically what we've done is we've created a bunch of algorithms, setups for the market that you're in. Because trust me, the Houston market's different than the Chicago market's different than the Savannah market, et cetera. And so what we've done is we've been able to build setups, put in the weight of the actual trucks, the tare weights of the containers and chassis. If you own chassis, plug all those weights in, especially if you've got a heavyweight corridor that you've got to abide by. Basically created what we call the dispatch intelligence, so that when a driver calls in for his next load, and mind you, it's definitely geared for the owner operator independent contractor model, because as we all know, they're only as good as their first dispatch, right, Sean? So basically, as the driver calls in, we plug in the driver. It will actually roll up the preferred load offers to the driver that's best for your company, and then also the driver. And then so once we've perfected that, we now have that ability on the tablet where the driver can actually now do the exact same thing. So instead of calling in, press his next dispatch on his tablet, And then he'll get the same load offer, and it's controlled by about 3 to 5 load offers. And then before he even accepts the first one, he can also do a match back to see what that second one, once he arrives at his first location, what's his next load? Because many drivers want to know that dual transaction. What are you having me do now, and what am I going to do next? And that will determine if I even want that first load. So yeah, Sean, I think we're ready to implement it at your location. We just have to book the time and start the massive setup that's needed. But good news is that's working in Houston market, so it shouldn't be a heavy lift for us for that. As far as let's get back to the paperwork. What paperwork? I know you mentioned paperless, but there's got to be some paperwork that you might be pushing, and if so, what is it?
Well, I guess the other nice thing about going paperless is we used to have drivers fill out a pay sheet and put all their interchanges and bill of ladings and everything and bring them into the office every day at the end of the day, since our drivers are at home every night. And then we'd process all that paperwork. Well, the drivers now just use their tablets. They take a picture of every interchange, every bill of lading, everything they need, and it automatically gets pulled into our system and associated with that load. So we already have the documents. And we actually, going to that, we don't need all that paperwork anymore because of the APIs with the port and the web scrapes with some of the other websites. A lot of those interchanges, we're telling drivers we don't need them. We can get them on our own. And the Envase will automatically do those for us and just pull them in. So Barber's Cut, Bayport, Cooper Ports of America, I think some of the IMC companies, Santa Fe, UP, a lot of those, anywhere that they have the interchanges on the website, we just go get them and don't require the drivers to send those to us.
And we get those automatic and electronically, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
Good.
It's automatic. We don't push a button. We don't do anything. They just show up and they're associated with the proper load. So we can just click on the imaging for any load and or any move, and those documents are there.
How about invoicing? I know that there's some EDI formats, et cetera, that are capable of doing, but how have we automated the invoicing and driver settlement process?
Yes, for the invoicing, it's what's very nice is if it's a customer who do have an EDI connection, it can be automated through EDI, which saves a lot of time. We don't send them interchanges anymore. Most of the times we don't send them bill of ladings. They don't even need them for your everyday move. If there's an issue with one or two, or they might contact us and ask for it, but it's saved right there in our system, so we can always pull it up. If it's a customer who doesn't have EDI, then we also have the auto email through email. So we can just automatically create the PDFs. We can automatically attach the interchanges to them if they want the interchanges, and create that email and send it to them with all the documents. And we're not manually putting together these documents to get to the customer. So we went from mailing out almost every invoice to now I don't think we mail any invoices to a single customer anymore. It's all done electronically. So it also saves paper. We're not printing all those images are out to mail them. So it's worked. It saved a lot of time, a lot of paperwork hassle. Just made that a lot quicker.
Interesting. And not to say you've done this, Sean, but I have heard from other customers that at times they will not take on a customer that won't allow them to send electronic invoices by that matter. If they had to go old school mail, they just won't do business with them. So as far as taking off for growth, I know you and I have talked about this, so I'll share. Being able, I think the biggest thing to grow your company is being able to step away and putting what I call smarter people into those roles and giving them that capability to do that. Would you say that that's a contributing factor to your growth, being able to concentrate on other locations, grow the company? And obviously it's the TMS that provides that data that you can keep the fingerprint on the company. Would that be a fair assessment?
Yes, I would say so, because even I still have a lot of customers who will come to me if there's an issue, which is really nice that I'm here halfway across the country from our headquarters today, and I had a question come up. I was able to log right in. It's all cloud-based. I was able to pull up the order that customer was asking about. I could find out all the information without even having to contact dispatchers or someone there to find out what was going on. And so it makes it real easy. I can just pull up anything from anywhere in the world. So it makes it easier to step aside. It makes it easier to go to work from any location. So I can go to the Dallas and work from there, but still know what's going on in Houston or Fort Worth or now Savannah.
Would it be fair to say that it's your involvement with the TMS provider, namely myself, let's say our relationship, that has been able to help grow, build these processes, put that in play, as compared to some of the other TMS systems out there that are 100% online, no interaction with the staff unless you want to chat online. Where do you see that going in terms of keeping that relationship going versus a company becoming 100% pretty much online chatting without the sense of being a partner?
Oh, absolutely. That's probably been one of the biggest advantages to working with you and your company, is that your mentality towards improving your software is, if it's good for us, it's probably good for other customers. And Lee Morwood many times has said, well, software, of course we can do it. So it's just a matter of figuring out the programming and whatever our ideas are. I think conversations with you and other team members, especially with you, and sometimes I have a great idea and I have a way I want to do it, but then we collaborate and you say, yes, we can accomplish the same thing by a different means, and you come up with better solutions. But then being willing to just actually change programming, to go and say, we'll change this to make it act differently for our specific need, is huge. And even that's what I kind of tell my staff. It's kind of funny. You can't go to Microsoft Windows and say, hey, I really wish it would do this instead of that. They're not going to listen to someone like me and make a change. I can't go to a QuickBooks and make a real change. Where we can come to you, and the idea is, if we can work out that it's physically possible through software, then it usually happens pretty quickly. Sometimes within it, if it's nothing without major program, I'd say sometime within 24 hours, we get changes to our software that improves the system. And I would say there's been so many that it's almost sad that you forget how many little things we save, because once you start doing it, it just becomes the way it is. And but there's been hundreds, if not thousands, of communications over the years with you guys that have made changes to really improve it, to dial it in specifically the information we want, or what our customers want, or what works better for us and our drivers in any given situation.
Thanks for that, Sean. And I guess in essence of time, I know we booked this for a whole hour, but I think we pretty much went through your entire business set. Is there any other things that you want to add to this, Sean, or say, and then maybe perhaps we have some questions that we can revert to?
Sure. Yeah, I will just say, getting into this, getting the drivers in your office buy-in is really key, and it's not hard to do. Once they start using it, even hiring new people, they come in, it's really quick and easy to train them on the software. I always kind of tell them, to me, it just makes sense. It does what a common sense person would think it would do, and that's how the workflow processes. So I find that to be one of the best things that we really enjoy about it, the ease of use, and that it covers so many different little niche things that we just, like I said, that I can't even begin to describe how many, again, that we used to manually go to websites or manually have to figure out, that we just start doing it and talk to y'all, and y'all make those changes. One key example too is another thing, is kind of thought outside of the box. One time I had a customer come to me and ask if I could take on a new project, and they wanted to split it up with 4 different people. And because the customer was so needy, they needed so much information right away, they were calling this customer they're calling my customer 4 or 5 times a day, and really just wearing them out on the phone. And I was able to talk to him. I said, listen, don't split this up with 4 companies. Give me this whole project. Let me do it. And I told him, my guarantee is that within 30 days, he won't be calling you or bugging you anymore. So then talking with your team, we figured out a way to reverse a web scrape. Instead of pulling information, we actually entered information into their website since they didn't have EDI or API. And so all those dates and times of every transaction that happened was automatically being uploaded into their website for them every time it were in that web scrape. And I was able to go to that customer 30 days later and said, "Hey, have you heard from Mr. Sanjit today?" And no, I haven't heard from him in a couple of weeks. I just kind of sat back and said, "Told you." It was nice because having that option, I knew it was capable. I went to y'all, you made the changes, we made this web scrape active and live, and it worked pretty much from day one, and it made the whole process and that whole project go seamlessly.
Nice. No, I wasn't aware of that. That's good to hear. It's good to hear. David, do we have any questions from the audience that maybe Sean or I can tackle?
Certainly do. We have one, which I think, Sean, which Envase platform are you using?
Yes, we are using the CompCare visual intermodal platform.
Yeah, and I'll shed some light on that. We've got we've got Profit Tools, GTG, and CompCare as the TMS platforms, as well as a whole host of other verticals that are shaping our ability to basically have a thumbprint on the movement of that container. We're now at the point with our sister company, Envase Technologies, which have gate systems at the ports and rails. So look forward to more integration on that. So basically, movement of a container from when it gets put on the vessel and even prior to that, all the way to completion is what Envase's focus and target is. So Sean's currently using the CompCare brand of TMS, which a lot of our customers like to think it's definitely the customizable, scalable system, ranging anywhere from about 25 trucks on up to, I believe, our largest customers running over 600 trucks. Next question.
This is a four-part one, so I will read them all off, and if you need me to repeat them, I will certainly do so. Will smartphones work? Uploading hand tags to system by the driver. And the attendee wants to know, did you hear that the API auto-populates appointment scheduling with terminal for pre-gating? And then the fourth part is this cloud-based software with technical support?
Great questions. So I'll do my best to answer those from memory. Yes, smartphones will work. Envase has put out another version of the app that's also integrated with CompCare, as well as Profit Tools and GTG. So in addition to the CompCare version, which is Android only, the system that Sean is using, Envase has put out a true bring your own device platform for the mobile app, which complete document capture, load information, etc. It's not as feature rich as the CompCare platform, but in time it will get there, definitely. And then as far as pre-gate information, yes, that's what our APIs are designed to do. So for example, if we have to submit, let's say we're taking in an export, turning in an export, they want to know the weight and the seal number. The system has API calls that will integrate that. In terms of appointments at the terminals, if you're running, let's say, West Coast, we all know about the appointments systems that you're required to have an appointment to even go in. LBCT is one of the only providers, and I believe FMS Phoenix, we're working closely with them on it. But to date, LBCT was one of the first that provided that API. So from the actual dispatch board, you could actually book an appointment online without having to go to the LBCT website. We would welcome any and all rails and ports to enhance their APIs so that we can integrate further in. So ideally, if the trucker did not have to go to the website for any reason and lived out of the TMS, that's our ultimate focus and goal. It's just getting the terminal systems and the rails to develop their APIs to allow us to do that. And I think, David, there was another question in there.
I think the one outstanding one is the technical support issue.
Yes, we all of the Envase products have technical support. It starts from the onboarding process. So once a sale is made, there's an onboarding process. Some of the TMSs handle it a little differently, just based on the nature of the software. I can tell you from the CompCare approach, we come out on site, and we typically come out on a weekend. Trying to train dispatch during the midweek just doesn't happen, doesn't work. There are too many distractions. And so we'll typically come in, we'll train all day Saturday, Sunday if needed, make sure all the orders are in, ready to go for Monday morning. We're there Monday morning at 6 a.m., 5 a.m., 4 a.m., whenever dispatch gets there. We'll hold your hand all the way through Wednesday, and then we'll follow up the following week, come out to get you through a complete billing and driver pay cycle. It's kind of ripping that Band-Aid off and just going live, but you'll have the technical support and the trainers there. And then once we leave, 24/7 technical support. I say 24/7 because most trucking companies really don't exercise that option because they're normal business hours. But on the West Coast, there's many 24/7 or near 24/7 operations due to the ports being open up till 2 a.m. So definitely technical support. As far as a true SaaS model, web platform, the GTG Profit Tools and CompCare systems, many years of development. We run on RDP servers on Amazon Web Servers platform, RDP access in. We are building today a true web platform with our Envase product, and eventually that Envase product will become Envase Enterprise, laced with the best practices and best of what the other TMSs do, all combined into one platform.
And we have another question. Do you have one super user, or do you train many people? And if someone leaves, how do you have coverage?
Great question. We all know that the industry we're in has a tremendous amount of turnover. And so we like to latch on to a super user, but not only do we train that super user, but that super user basically is by our side while we train the entire staff. We put the onus on that super user to build an SOP, standard operating procedure manual for the company of how they will operate and use the TMS. And it's up to that super user to make the addition, make those changes to the SOP when changes occur. But at the end of the day, if that's still not done, because not everyone will follow that, it's just a suggestion we make. There are multiple times where we can do sessions online. Maybe you get a new person that's not familiar with the TMS, and so we can do sessions online. And then if it's been quite a while and you've had multiple people turn over, then it's not uncommon for us to go back out on site, schedule something out on site and do that process, because in our industry, things are constantly changing, and those processes, we need to adapt. And I'm going to throw that to Sean. Sean, if you could guess, how many days or how many times have we been out to your location?
Oh, a bunch. So I will say that it is a big advantage, especially after you go to a conference or something. You hear about all the ideas and updates that other trucking companies or other people have come up with. It's great to get y'all to come back out on site and we work together, see how these improvements can help our situation, and we'd kind of dial them in even more specifically towards us. I will say, kind of on his question, as far as a super user versus training a lot of people, I would say you definitely want a key super user to drive it, especially at an initial implementation. But what I found is over the years that each department's kind of becoming their own super user in what they do daily. And so we're not dependent on one person to know how to use the entire system. It's kind of more department by department. And so that's been, has not been an issue with us with training new people, but we did recently bring out someone from your Houston area to come and sit with us, just to look at our billing process, look at what we're doing, how we're doing it. And if y'all have any other improvements or ways to make that go quicker and easier. And every time you come out, we find just all kinds of ways that we can make things go a little faster, a little smoother. Really big on if you can figure out a way to save 3 keystrokes or save a click of a button and just make the whole process quicker. All those just make everything runs more smoothly, and they all add up tremendously up at the end of the day.
Thanks for that, Sean.
We don't have any additional questions at this time.
Great. Well, I would like to thank IANA, David. Thank you for allowing us to present, and also Sean Leone, who's not actually in his office. He's traveling, and he took the time to jump on and do this for us. So I really appreciate the time for everyone and all of those that participated by jumping on the webinar.
Thank you, Jim, and thanks to you both for your participation today and sharing some really useful information. We greatly appreciate it. I know our members will benefit from this. So thank you. Thank you all so very much for being with us today, and have a great afternoon.